Okay, so we need to review for the final exam here. We want to practice our graphing. This parabola has been moved down 7. So that's an easy, when the changes are on the outside, we know that that matches our common sense. And so we also have our 1A, 3A method of 3A, 5A method of graphing. We know that sometimes the 5A doesn't even make it to the graph. The 1A value here is a 1, and so 3 times that would be 3, and 5 times that would be 5. Okay, so plot some dots here on down 7 would be here. Over 1, up 1. Over 1, up 3. Over 1, up 5. And then, of course, once we have those points, as we've done so many times before, we copy them to the other side. Nope. And there's our parabola. Well, what if the parabola is already given to us? What if we need to come up with the vertex? Well, that's pretty easy. We can look at the picture and tell that the vertex is -2, 8. And remember, when we write our stuff on the inside looks backwards of our common sense, right? The outside matches our common sense. Now, what about the A value at the beginning? Well, that's where we literally count, right? We went over 1, down 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we know that the A value is -4. It's a matter of counting, that's all. As long as the values are nice, we don't have to do any algebra. And I promised you that I would make them nice. Okay, so write the equation in vertex form. This one doesn't have a picture, so I'm going to have to make my own. Over 1, 2, 3, up 3. There's my vertex. I'm going to change this coordinate. I don't know what's on the packet. So let's see here. 1 before A. Okay. So about 0, no, 2, 0. So that means another dot on the graph is right there. So there's my vertex. That means that this thing has to open down. We know that inside the parentheses, it has to look backwards over our common sense. And on the outside, now, if you want to put +0, that's fine. But most of us probably know that we don't have to put that in this particular case. But if there was a different value, yes, you would have to put that value. Now, what's the A value here? Well, over 1, down 3. Looks like -3. Or, like I said, if you wanted to write y equals -3, x minus 2 squared like that, that would also be acceptable. You don't have to put the +0 in that case. All right, write this function in vertex form. I remember teaching you the opposite of b over 2a as your shortcut for finding the first part of the vertex, which in this case would be the opposite of -6 over 2 times 1, which I believe is 3. So that means my vertex starts out at 3. How do we find the y value that goes with it? We simply plug the 3 in. So 9 minus 18 is -9. And minus -7, or -7 is a -16. We can clearly see that the a value here is a 1. So if we want to put a 1 in front, we can. Not necessary. Looks backwards on the inside, looks exactly like what you think on the outside. Oops. Missed something here. Identify the vertex. Okay. So opposite of b over 2 times a. So first part of the vertex is -4. Which is also the first part, or is the axis of symmetry, the line that cuts it in half. So those two things match. And we can plug it in to find the other part, -4 squared plus 8 times -4 plus 17. Okay, so 16 minus 32 is -16 plus 17 is a +1. So +1. So if we're thinking about this, looking at a graph, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and up 1. It has an a value which is positive, so it must open up. So I drew that picture just to kind of get you thinking. Do we have a minimum or a maximum? We obviously have a minimum. And that minimum y value is +1. Since it has to go higher and higher and higher, it would be greater than or equal to that value, which is greater than or equal to 1. Back to graphing, remember we have a 1a of 1, which means 3a is 3, and 5a is 5. We need to find the vertex. Opposite of b over 2 times a. So that would be a -2, and then we plug it in. -2. These parentheses are kind of useful, so I would suggest you use them. 4 minus 8. Okay, so that's going to be a -1. So my vertex is at -2, -1. -2, -1. A value is +1, so it's over 1 and up 1. Over 1 and up 3. Over 1 and up 5. Copy them to the other side. All right, if we do the same thing, we got a 1a value of 4, a 3a value of 12, and a 5a value, which may not show up on this graph, 20. Okay, so opposite of b over 2 times a. Negative 16 over 8 is negative 2. And using those parentheses, if you're typing this on a calculator, is useful. So we know our vertex starts out at negative 2. And we plug it in. So 16 minus 32 plus 12. Minus 4. So negative 2, negative 4. And then we go over 1, up 4. Over 1, up 12. That puts me at 12. There's no way I can get the last one on the graph. The 5a is not going to make it. So we have a very tall, skinny looking parabola. Since this is a negative, we know that this is going to be a parabola that opens down. Negative numbers don't make sense in talking about how much we're selling or how much money we're making. So negative numbers just really don't make sense here. Where do you find the maximum on a picture like this? Well, of course the answer is at the vertex. So this question is all about finding the vertex. Opposite of b over 2 times negative 2.5. So that's going to be a negative on the top and a negative on the bottom. I think that's going to be 90. So the price that they should charge is $90. And maximum revenue would only be found if I actually plug in the 90. Which means I'm going to need to grab a calculator because I don't know that off the top of my head. $20,250. I'm going to skip both of these examples and move on to the next one. Well, the vertex is pretty simple. It's opposite of what you see on the inside, exactly what you see on the outside, right? So negative 6, positive 1. We do have a 1a value of negative 4, which 3 times that would be negative 12, and 5 times that would be negative 20. Probably not going to show up on the graph. We shall see. Axis of symmetry, x equals negative 6, right? Remember, it matches this one right here, that number. So let's see. And you can see down here they have that multiple choice answer down there. Well, let's take a look at the actual picture. Then we'll talk about range. It was -6, +1. We go over 1, we're supposed to go down 4. Over 1 again. It's supposed to go down 12. That definitely puts us at the edge of the graph. So there's no way I'm going to get to the 5a number. Whoops, I missed. So they said, what's the range? And remember, I talked about smashing the entire graph onto the y-axis and saying how much of the y-axis would be covered. Well, hopefully you'd understand that it would start at 1 and it would go down forever and ever and ever. So that would be y is less than or equal to +1. If you're an interval notation fan, that would be from -infinity, which is way down here, all the way up to +1. And that would be a bracket because you're including 1. But that's only if you like interval notation. And that's the review for the final exam part of chapter 3.